Hello there, welcome to Algebra 2 CST release question number 51. Here's what we got. It says 4x squared minus 5y squared minus 16x minus 30y minus 9 equals 0. And it's asking what is the standard form of the equation of the conic section, or of the conic, given above. So this one is going to take some time here. We're going to be working this through. We're actually going to be needing to do something called completing the square. Hopefully you remember how to do that. And we're going to have to do it twice. And that will get us into something that looks like this. And so here's the approach. Here's the tactic with this. Find your x terms first. We're going to put those two things together. So this is going to become, and I'm going to use parentheses to help keep things neat and orderly. I'm going to have a blank space right here. And so I've got 4x squared minus 16x and then something else. Not sure yet what that something else is. And then over here I'm going to write it with a plus sign in between right now. And then we'll do something else, or potentially factors things out before moving on to the next step. Here we'd have negative 5y squared minus 30y and another blank spot. And I'll have this minus 9, and you know what, while I'm at it, I'm just going to say plus 9 to both sides right now, and so that would say, or that would give me this, equals 9. And so I'm just leaving that blank for right now. But now I want to complete the square, and so I've got something here I'm going to be adding to this part to complete the square of the x values, and then I'll use blue for this other one. I'm going to be adding something else over here to complete the square for the y values, and those things will also need to be added over here. This is an equation, got to keep it balanced, so I got to add the same thing to both sides of the equation. If I add something to one side, got to still add it to the other side. And so I'm not exactly sure what goes in there and there. There's a couple different ways to approach this. You can use, or we're going to be using, for completing the square, we always have to use this b over 2a squared idea. So b over 2a squared, your b is the value in front of the x, your a is the value in front of the x squared term. Likewise, b here would be negative 30 and negative 5, values in front of the y and the y squared term. So we're going to be using this to complete the square here, but you can actually factor something out first if you wanted to. You can do this either way. I think it's probably easier to think about factored out first. So let's do that. Let's factor out. Looks like I can factor out 4 out of both of those terms. So I'm going to take out the 4. I would have x squared minus 4x plus, I still don't know what that value is, but I'm going to figure it out now. So in green, I'll do the completing the square part over here for the green part. My a value would be like there. It's as if there is an invisible 1 right there. My b value would be that value right here. So I've got 1 for my a value, and I've got negative 4 for my b value right there. So the green completing the square part would look like this. I would have negative 4 over 2 times 1 squared, and that's going to equal, this would be negative 4 over 2, which would be negative 2. Negative 2 squared would be positive 4. And so this blank spot is going to get filled in by a plus 4. However, carefully consider what you're going to put over here. Are you just going to add 4? No, because you're actually taking 4 times everything in here. So be very careful here. Because I factored it out, it did make it easier to think about what was inside there. It made it easier to complete the square, but I have to multiply 4 back through. So in a sense, I'm actually adding 16 to both sides. So I'm going to have equals 9, but then this would be plus 16. Again, why is that? The 4 gets distributed back through. You're taking 4 times 4, so you're actually adding 16 up here. So if I would not have factored out the 4, I would have put a plus 16 here instead. Foil this, or not foil, but distribute that back through. You get what you started with up here. And now let's do the y part. We'll call it the blue part here. So we have, looks like I can factor out a negative. And not only a negative, but a negative 5. So let's factor that out first. And then I'll have y squared plus 6y, and then plus, I don't know yet. So I'm trying to figure out now this blue part, what's in there. So I look at this, I've got a 1 for my A, I've got a positive 6 for my B. Why did I have positive 6? Because negative 5 times positive 6 is negative 30. And so there's actually a plus 6 right there. For the blue part now, we've got the B over 2A squared becomes 6 over 2 times 1. And we're squaring that, so that's 6 over 2, which is 3. 3 squared is 9. And so what's going to go in right here? This better be a plus 9. And now, what does that mean though? What have I actually added to this side? I've actually added negative 5 times that. So I've actually added a negative 45, or I'm, in other words, subtracting 45 from both sides of the equation here. And so now I want to simplify all this. So I've got 4 times, the whole point of completing the square is so that I can write this as something squared. So completing the square does exactly what it sounds like. It completes the square. So this would be x minus 2. I can think of this as I'm trying to think of numbers that will multiply to 4 and add together to get negative 4. And so that would be negative 2 and negative 2. That's what's going in here. I'm minus 2, but I'm squaring that. So that times itself. If you FOIL that back out, x minus 2 times x minus 2, you get what you started with in the parentheses up here. In the same way, you've got negative 5 times, and then over here, I would be thinking, okay, what's the number that multiplies together to get negative 9 and adds together to get positive 6? That should be a 3 and a 3. And so you'll also notice each time it's just the square root of this number, the b over 2a squared part is the square root of this number. That's what goes in here and right here. That's another way to think about what that value should be. So this would be x plus 3 times itself, or in other words, x plus 3 squared. So this is all going to equal, you'll have 9 plus 16 is 25, and 25 minus 45, that's going to be negative 20. So our general form has to have just a 1 on the right side and not a negative 20. So what should I do there? I should divide everything by negative 20. I'll get out a new color. I haven't used purple yet, so I'll use purple here. So divide everything by negative 20, divide this whole part by negative 20, divide this whole part by negative 20. This will cancel here and here. You'll be left with, the negatives will cancel. You'll just have a 1 left over here. Let's see what else will cancel. This would become, looks like this is going to, because, let's see, it looks like this is going to become, I won't want the negative on the bottom. I always have positive values on the top. So if I divide this by negative 4, I would get negative 1. If I divide this by negative 4, I'd get positive 5 here on the bottom. And then negative divided by negative, that would cancel. This will become a plus, and then 5 into both of these would give me a 1 here, and it would give me a 4 over here. So let's make sense of what we have left. So I have negative x minus 2 squared over 5, and I've got positive or plus x plus 3 squared. And my fault, I was like, where'd my y go? This should be y plus 3 squared. There we go. So y, my fault and bad, I was going to say at the same time. You ever do that? You're thinking of one word and then a totally different word comes out right in the middle of what you're saying? Yep, Brian Regan, you should look him up. He has a very funny joke about that. But anyways, great comedian. I've got this over 4. This is going to equal 1. And so instead of writing it like this, I want to write the part that's positive out in front and then subtract that part from it. So another way to write this is y plus 3 squared over 4 minus x minus 2 squared over 5 equals 1. And so this is the form, or it's in the form of a hyperbola that is not centered exactly at the origin. It's actually centered at negative 3, it looks like, but we don't need to know that for this question. We've already got our answer. What's the standard form of something like this? So this looks exactly like choice B. Looks like we're all set to go there. Number 51, choice B.